Okay, here I am in Photoshop with Acrobat open with the instructions for the space background tutorial. And if you look here, that is our next ICE lesson, in-class assignment, which is actually homework. And I started to title that homework. If you notice, the syllabus at the very beginning did say homework, and then I was just so used to they're in-class exercises to me. So in class at home, you're at home in class, whatever exercise. So space tutorial here coming up. And toggling back over and over to Photoshop. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up a new document. So Photoshop is on top. That is the active document window. So Control or Command N for a new document. And it says to go ahead and call it, it says space background there, but I'm going to call it ICE 11. So ICE 11 Beck Joycey. And because I wasn't sure what numbers I was going to give this at the time, but there it is. ICE 11 actually is the name that we're going to give it. Okay, rather than the name written here, ICE 11. And in inches, we're going to just go 5 inches by 5 inches. So 5, tab, 5. And color, RGB, yes, what happened here? 5. And resolution, 300. That's what's going on. Okay. So everything looks good. I'm going to hit OK. I've got my little box, Command or Control 0 for all the real estate. And now hit Control Shift S or Command Shift S. Save it to your fall folder and to the ICE lessons. And there it is, ICE 11. All right, so I'll hit save. And not sure what I was meaning here. To your tutorial folder, I don't know. Ignore this little remember to save it to your fall folder under ICE lessons. Why tutorials? Anyways, I didn't catch that. As I think at one time I called them toots, and so I had different exercises and toots. Now I'm just calling them all ICE. All right, convert the background to black. So Control I, and it converts it. Control I again would convert it back. So no, I want it black. So Control I or Command I if you're on a Mac. The background is now black. If the levels dialog box come up, you pressed L instead of an I. That is an I. Okay, because that's happened to people. My mother did that. So, and this is like 83-year-old woman tested. She's now 87, but when she did it, she was 83. And so she just followed the directions, not knowing Photoshop, and she was able to produce space background. We're going to add a new layer, so Control Shift N or Command Shift N on a Mac. Just leave it as layer 1 without a name. And we're going to hit Shift Backspace, which will bring up our foreground color, but we want it to be 50% gray. So down at the bottom here, 50% gray, and the contents little, okay, and it used to say contents use, it now just says contents 50%. So if you're on the older ones, use will still be there. And I know I'm dealing with all kinds of people using CS6, CS 2014, CC14, CC15, CC 15.5. So trying to make videos and do this online has really been a challenge. I am here for you though. Write me if you have problems, and usually I think most of you will say within 10 minutes. I tend to get back to you, usually under an hour, but there are going to be times I'm working and I just can't get back to you. I'll do my best. All right, so we got 50% gray. Press D to get my default colors. So you can see they're not default, so I'll hit D and they're the default colors. D for default, that's on your quiz. Let's go up to the filter menu, and at the top of the bar we're going to choose noise, add noise. So filter, noise, add noise, and it will give it some like stars like here. And the settings are going to be amount for 400. So pump it way up. Is it all the way to the end? All the way to the end, 400. And we want a Gaussian on that, the distribution, and monochromatic. Okay. And you see the change there. It changes kind of the shape of those so that they're going to look more like stars there. Monochromatic, meaning no color, one color, black and white. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and say okay. Up to the filter menu, choose blur, Gaussian blur, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay, and for its settings, we're going to go ahead and do a 1.5. So I'll just type it, 1.5. I'll just hit my enter key. That was faster than scrolling over to it. Next, let's bring up the levels. A Control L will be, or a Command L if you're on a Mac, will bring up your levels dialog box. This will be destructive. This is the same as going over here into Image, adjustments, levels. Notice the Control L. Okay, since I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit it. It is different. Actually, I'm going to escape that by hitting the escape button. Here's the other way to make adjustments. And if I made this level's adjustments, it would be editable. When I closed Photoshop, this would still be here, and I could come in here and change this to whatever I liked at any time I liked. But I'm going to escape that. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in the trash because I do want the destructive one. I'm going to be firm with my decision, and I'm going to go ahead and Command or Control L and just accept what I'm doing here on this step. So it says to drag the dark triangle, the one over here, to about 175. The middle stays at the spot, and then the white one's going to go to 219. So 175, and that's dragging it way over there. 175. And this little white one then over to 219. So not too far over, but about where their information is. Actually, I would go here to where information is. And I think this is going to be personal, whatever you just, you can see where information starts. That's way too many stars, but I'd even say about 119, but I'll go ahead and, yeah, don't want to go to 219. I don't get very many stars then. I'm not seeing too many stars. I'm going to go ahead and drag it over because here's where the hump kind of ends and it levels out. So I'm going to go to 197. Again, this is kind of personal on the second number. You'll see that I can see those very distinct stars here in this video, okay, and on this screen. So I'm going to say okay to that. So I did change that number on this time, but each time this pops up, it's going to be a little bit different. Your little hump's going to be a little bit different. You're going to drag those. You can see even here, I've just drug some. I don't even know if I had it open at the time when I did this image for you. I think I just pulled it up so I could, type some numbers in here for you. And this was on a different image even. It doesn't matter, but anyhow, I probably forgot to take the image when the stars were up. All right, so we're going to go over to the channels panel and control click on the RGB icon. So here's our channels right next to the layers, and if I control or command click on it, you'll see that I get these marching ants all over my stars. Okay, so and again, you have to click on the icon, that little black square. You have to control click on that, or command click if you're on a Mac. Okay, so we've done that, and if you're watching Corey's video, he's going to tell you to Control plus Alt plus tilde, and it does not work in CS6 and later on. To be honest, it didn't work for me in CS4 or CS5 either. I think he meant to control click, but he said Control Alt tilde. I'm not sure why, or maybe that was a shortcut way back when. So again, if you're watching his video, and he's a lot of fun, more fun than me. Bummer. Okay, but you're stuck with me. Next, go to the layers panel, add a new layer. So back to the layers panel, Control Shift N, enter without giving it a name. And you can see that that's what it looks like. We're going to go up to the menu bar and do Select, Modify, and we're going to expand those stars. So they're just a little bigger than they already are, but only by 1 pixel. Much more than that, and you're going to have ginormous stars. So there we go, and you can see them a lot more. We get a lot of stars in the sky here. Must be in the desert. Okay, don't deselect those marching ants yet. Don't do it. Press D to get the default colors in case you quit at some point and don't have your default. We still have default. See my default colors, they're still there. And so with the marching ants still selected, I'm going to do a Control backspace to fill them with the white. Now if I did an Alt backspace, they'd become black. Control backspace, I haven't taught you that. A few people have been in lab and I've taught you. I just wanted you to learn one because you can always hit X to exchange and use Alt backspace. But now I'm going to show you that the Control button works the background color. Well, Alt will work the foreground color, Control works the background. So I'm going to hit Control backspace, but on mine it's a Command Delete. And notice my stars get a little bigger, okay? So because I just expanded that area, so now I made it a little bit bigger. Okay. So next we're going to add a layer style. All right. By double clicking on the layer called layer 2. Did I not add another layer? I thought I added another layer. Evidently I did not. No, I didn't. So going back before I fill that, before I'm on the expand, go ahead and get that next layer. I don't know what I hit. I must have hit, Lord knows what. Okay, so Command or Control backspace to go ahead because that's on that new layer. Hopefully you guys had the new layer and you didn't have to back up. Okay, so now 2 clicks on this layer 2 to open up the styles, and we're going to do an outer glow. Outer glow, so click on the word, not the checkbox, because these options will not show up if you just clicked on the checkbox. If you just hit that, they didn't show up. I've already clicked on the word, so of course they showed up. Now I'm going to choose from the color a pink, and I'm going to get on my hue, saturation, and brightness. Choose a nice pink, get up here, and there's a good pink. And I'll say okay to that. And then 100% opacity, I'm at 35. So 100% opacity, gonna use screen color picker. Oh, okay, and a 7 for the size. And my size is at 15, bring it down to 7. Say okay. Now you can see my stars are blinking in pink. Okay, so I think I better hit Control Save at this point because I haven't yet. And there we go. All right, duplicate the layer. Control or Command J duplicates the layer, but I've got another layer of pink stars. I want to have some blue stars now. So this time I'm going to double click on the outer glow. I'm going to change the star color to a blue by clicking here, blue, say okay to that. I'll say okay to that. And now my blue stars are kind of covering up my, but it's on a screen setting. I don't know if you noticed the setting was set to screen, so it's kind of seeing through, and so I'm kind of getting a purple effect. But I want to see both the blue and the pink stars. So let's Control Save at this point. And all right, just making sure I followed everything. This is a new layer 3, okay. So, okay, so now Control T to transform. And when I see this double-headed arrow, do you see it all the way at the bottom here? I'm gonna hold Shift and drag it around, just one time around. I don't wanna go all the way. I just wanna go to there, all right? So it's coming around, and you can see how you can see those little bars going around, and if you hold Shift, it goes to a perfect 0, 0. Okay, next, both the pink stars are now visible, but it's a little crowded with too many stars. Our next step is going to fluctuate the brightness and darkness of the stars. We'll do that by adding a layer mask to each of the 2 layers. With the top layer still selected, I need to hit Enter to commit to that transformation. And then add the flag to the top layer, and it's that little star. Let's see if I can get my Photoshop. There we go. That little flag of Japan there. So I've added that. And I'm going to go up to the menu bar, Filter, Render, Clouds, middle, and there we have it. Okay, so it rendered clouds, and that worked out so well. So we're going to do a levels adjustment. Let's go Control L, or Command L if you're on a Mac. And you're going to drag your triangles over again to where you see the information. Would probably work out well, although they say this one go all the way to a 65, so there's a 65. Leave the one where it's at, and 222 for this guy. And again, I can see where the information is over here, but 222, it's close enough. All right, so just a little insight on each of those, and it helped to fog out some of those extra stars. So I'm going to say okay to that. And if I hit Shift, you can see a lot more come back. And I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm clicking on the mask. Shift and click on the mask. You can see what was before and then after. So I've really fogged out quite a few of those. I'm going to do the same thing, get on layer 2, go ahead and add a mask. The other thing I could do, it's good practice to add the mask, and I want to show you another trick. I could hold Alt and just drag this down, and then I've got a mask on it too, but I'm not going to do that because it's identical and I don't really want it, so Control Z. But I will target this layer, I will add a mask, and then I'm just going to hit Control F. This shortcut to Control F will always apply the last filter I did. So Control F, notice I get clouds again, but see, they're a little bit different. They're not the exact same clouds as what I had before. So here I'm holding Shift and I'm clicking on the mask. I have less stars, okay? There's still a little too many stars, so we're going to go ahead and next we're going to do a hue and saturation. So activate the colorize box. Okay, add a hue and saturation adjustment to the clouds layer. So up on top, hue and saturations, and or it's going to be destructive. So Control Z that, Control Z that, and let's close that. And they're saying just use Control U or Command U, which gets me my hue and saturation box. And again, that's found under Image. Let me escape that. That's found under Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. And you can see there it is, Control U or Command U. So I'm here, I might as well click it. And it tells you to go ahead and activate the colorize. That's the little checkbox. Some of you forgot that in the man's, the model, the Asian man, Asian model, his hair to make it blue. You forgot to hit the colorize. Okay, and it's on that same line as it says to open up hue and saturation. And people always read to the next line then and forget to go back and hit the colorize. Okay, so it says to turn the saturation up to 40. So I'm going to turn the saturation up to 40 and click OK. All right. So our hue and saturation, there it is. All right, working out nicely. Control save, time to hit save, Control or Command save, S for save, and we did that. Okay, go to the menu and a radial blur. Okay, so filter, blur, radial blur, and it says to pull this up just a little bit so the blur is not coming right from dead center and looking kind of fake. Okay, so there's our little thing. We're going to go for 100. So pull that all the way up. Quality is good. That's fine. And hit OK. Zoom. Wait a minute. That was a zoom, zoom. There we go. Okay. Hit OK. And then change the drop down blend mode. Yeah, I think I'm missing a layer. I am. I needed a new clouds layer. I kept thinking at some point I'm supposed to put in a new clouds layer. So sorry. Going back to where I just did the clouds there. Okay. So backing up to where I just added that clouds there. New layer. I'll just go ahead and click it here. And I need to put it on top because it is on the bottom there. Okay. And a Command F to get, oh, because the radial blur. Yeah. So I have to start over. Filter. Render, clouds, clouds, there we go. Okay, render clouds, Control U, turn it up to 40 after hitting the colorize. There's the 40, there's the OK. Change the screen mode to the blend mode. I believe it's to screen, it could be overlay. Okay, there's that. And we're going to do a radial blur. Blend mode to screen. I'm just a little out of order there. So blend mode's going to go to screen, but then I also need to do this now, the filter radial blur. So filter, blur, radial blur. I'm sorry, I've really screwed this up on you guys. The 100, the zoom, the good, and say OK. And there it is. Okay, that's looking a lot better. All right. So add a mask, click the mask down at the bottom. Okay, and D for default, since they're not at default colors again. I guess they are default, sorry, white on top, default colors. Oh, and then I want to hit X, that's why I know I want, okay. I want my black on top. Okay, so make sure the foreground displays the black square. Next, make sure that the layer icon is, the layer mask icon is selected. Sure enough, it is. See how the little square is around it? Now it's around the image, and over here it's around the mask. So make sure this part's selected, the mask. And then hit G for the gradient tool. And from the tools panel, and verify that you've got the right tool. I can see that I do, and I can see there's a gradient up here. And then from the options drop down, I am going to make sure that I have this one that is the foreground to transparent. Okay, and again I clicked on the map, the ramp here, rather than just the drop down menu. Hard to see this, but if I click on the ramp, I can certainly see foreground to transparent instead of the first one. Okay, so you can see the difference here. I'm going to say okay to that. Then it says to make sure that the mode is set to normal. It is. And we're going to go in with the gradient tool. All right. So, and again, it's also, you should also check to make sure that the gradient is set to this radial, not radial, excuse me, linear, this one, the linear gradient, not the radial, okay? Or any of these other diamonds and angle and all that. Okay, so you're going to hold shift and just start pulling down from all sides. So I'm going to hold shift. I'll start at the top like a clock and go to where this kind of the center of that is. Coming across and going to the center on that one. Across and to the center on that one. Over to the center over here on this one. And I have kind of a little amoeba like looking thing. I'm going to go ahead and this was if you were going to make a book cover out of it. Who even buys books anymore? You guys are all using Cyberbooks. So I used to have this as a book cover lesson to cover your Photoshop book. And so no longer. That's why I made it 5 inches by 5 inches. It would be ginormous, huge file, take forever to do everything. Anyhow, so if you want to move this around, you can Control T, and you can scoot that little guy around wherever you want it. So that if it's dead center, you might not like that. You might want to move it off to the side or something. So mine's been moved around a little bit. I can also move my move tool and scoot it around. Okay, so much for that. Duplicate the layer, Control J or Command J. I have another one. I now want to Control I that or Command I. So now you can see it's warped that or you know, changed its color. You can see it here in the tools or the layers panel also. And now we're going to go ahead and Control T that, and we're going to warp it by right clicking and choosing warp. Again, all this, I'm going to escape, is under Edit, Transform, but hopefully you're using Transform enough that once you're transforming, and then again you can choose it from here, warp, okay, and you're going to get the same identical thing. I'm going to hit escape and Control or Command T, right click and choose warp. Just so much quicker. I'm then just going to pull down. I have to be inside the image. I can't be right on the edge here or on the line. I have to kind of, you can see where it shows black, it says it's going to go ahead and accept it. I'm going to warp that guy down. Going to warp this one up, and again, if I'm not on it, I can't do it. You see, it won't accept it. When it's black, it'll do it. Okay, and I'll warp that kind of up, and I could take from the sides if I want. I think that looks pretty good. I could even bring that back out that way if I wanted. Maybe even adjust that up just a little more. Come on, there we go. And I'm going to hit the return key. So we are just about done. The problem is when I did that warp, I don't know if you can see this little line right here. Can you see this little dotted line coming across right along here? Very faint, but annoying. And then across here where I did the transformation. So I need to fix that on the mask because it's a mask problem. So on the mask, always using a paintbrush and painting with either black or white. Black will cover. So black is right now going to cover this. And if I just paint, oh, and I do want a very soft brush. I want to make sure I can see I've got a hard brush that's not fuzzy at all. So I want to make it fuzzy. Now see how the edges of that look fuzzy? That's the brush I want, and I can make it kind of big, and I can just kind of paint in, and then I won't have a harsh edge where that was at, where I corrected this. And then again, I'm coming across over here and here, and I can see it on this edge too. I might have twisted that a little. And then I don't see it over here, but just for good measure, I'm going to kind of clean up. There we go. All right, so there it is. Cleaning up those little telltale marks. Control save, and that is your space background. You can use that in another project as a background or whatever you like. Just a fun project with a lot of new learning things. The Control I to invert your black background to a white background or a white to a black, and to invert an image. It's, you know, it's just cool stuff. All right, I will see you in the next video.